Rotation. Yeah, certainly glad we played the Thorn Spot, because it put us close, right? If we hadn't played turn 1 Thorn Spot, we have no chance in that fight, based on what we saw. Another try. Okay. Defects start with choose a card, obtain 3 random potions, take 18 damage for 14 max HP, or boss swap. Okay, what's our act look like? A couple paths with very, very, very early merchants. 3 elite path has no fires. No, it's got 1. It's got 1. I take it back. It's got 1 fire. What a wacky act we live in. Could we ever take this path? It's so nuts. 1, 2 easy fights, merchant. 1, 2, 3, 4 advanced fights, and 3 elites back-to-back, no fires, final destination, no items. Like, truly, your first 2 drops would have to both be impossible. Do any of these starts get us closer to that? Potions? Arguably? Certainly max HP does not. Don't potions... If so, that's a very weird interaction, Kodiak. I don't know that. I don't know why it should. But yeah, there could be some... I do know that there's some weird math in this game to where... multiple different seed values are kind of shared across each other in a weird way. Wow, Celestia says they do. They roll 3 fright results. So this is what chat says. Taking potions here also advances our rare card chance, because effectively the 3 potions under the hood rolls 3 fight results, and then results in a greater chance of rare card here as well, which is non-trivial. Tight decision making. Okay. We take 3 random potions. Realistically, one of them is a great attack hit. But then we're carrying it all the way to this elite. We make another 30-ish gold. We've got 129. We can afford no relics at this point, but maybe like a decent uncommon. We've got Guardian at the end, who's usually okay for Gremlin, or rather for Defect. This is so dicey. The thing is that probably the best chance of being able to take this path is 3 potions, but this path is so dicey that I wonder if that's not correct to optimize towards. And then choose a card and take 18 for 14 are not that empowering or not that enticing. Maybe this is boss swap. Maybe this start is boss swap. Because boss swap could leave us very, very strong. And if so, we could still play open to this line. And if it's the kind of boss swap that requires us to play it a little easy for a bit while we find strength, then we can bail out and go to the left and maybe even take the empowered elites, right? Say we get Black Star, then we take a path to where we can make sure that we can fight 1 elite in this act rather than trying to take 3. Maybe 2. right? Maybe it's like here and here, and if we find the right potions, go into this elite, and then also go into this elite. And then bam, we're on 4 relics. Yeah, I think that this is just boss swap. I don't think the other options give us enough of a power because there's a fair chance that we take 3 random potions to specifically allow us to take more elites, and then we just can't do it, right? We get here and we know that if we go to the right, we're just going to die. Inserter! Oh no. Well, Inserter is not what I would describe as the world's most powerful relic for floor 1. But it will grow stronger, given the opportunity to do so. A little bit of love. Okay. I'm going to go like this. We're going to dodge this merchant, and then almost definitely we'll go to this one, and we're going to try to take 1 elite? Question mark? Well, let's get through a couple floors and see where we can go from there. Okay. Yeah, it's not a horrible swap. Like this, given that we already know this, we can make this a lot stronger than it is over time. It's certainly not opening us up to taking more elites, and in fact, I suspect it makes us take less. Next turn, Zap, Dual Cast Strike is 3, 6, 16, 16, 6, 22, 25, so we need to do 1 strike, which is what we were going to do anyway. Oh, I guess we have the lightning too. This run will be fun, I believe. Good! I also believe. I'm gonna have fun no matter what. Even if it's fun in the dirt. You know? Face down situation. Okay, so with Inserter, it's not unlikely that Hologram is pretty important. I really, really like Turbo. It's effective energy already. It will matter right now in Act 1 when we need to be playing more of our cards. It's not gonna let us down. What Hologram does is it lets us play Zap more often. But then maybe also like a Chaos. That's not bad. I feel like if we have Inserter, we need to pick into it. And Inserter likes 2 things. Repeatedly playing orb cards to use up the slots, and repeatedly playing Consume to use up the slots. Those are the 2 things that Inserter likes. And what helps you repeatedly play cards? Owning multiple copies of the card. Having more draw. Hologram is draw. It's very targeted draw. It also gives us a little consistency in these first few fights, actually. Find the right damage at the right time, or just a little bit more blunk. Have you taught Junie to play dead yet? No. He started doing this tip-tap thing, though, sometimes when we play fetch. To where when he's waiting for me to throw the ball again, he, like, alternates tapping his feet on the ground, which is just really unfair. Really deeply unfair in how cute it is. Yeah, I like the holo here. Hologram is not as impressive against our friend Grimlanius Norbulus. The good news is we can't fight these elites anyway. And, I mean, it's between Turbo and Holo. I'm not taking Claw here. Ever. You would really... We would have to have already gotten 2 relics, and they would have to be, like, perfect. You know? Unceasing Top Nunchaku. And the store has the blue candle. Blue candle. Well, well, well. I mean, we can do some damage. Kill 1 slime, butter up the other one. Sure. Claw is the big rad. I would consider it to be more of a small kind of free radical. Not particularly large, but definitely free. Yeah, it's too bad we don't have an orb. I could do 16, 22 damage. Ah! Yeah. Life is a distinct kind of pain, isn't it? I don't think this enemy can attack 3 times in a row. So next turn we should be safe. So we certainly want to blanc here, but we also want to be able to do enough damage to win. Okay. Good turn. Yeah, 3 orbs. Look how much oh. Hey, okay, that's legit. Distilled Chaos is a very, very real potion. You can tell because if you look closely, it's got glittery little motes, which means it's, you know, rarer. I think it's pretty good. 3 free card plays is no slouch. And we have an inserter, so surely Compile Driver is like super dank, right? It's interesting. Is it interesting? If this were Hello World, I might actually consider it. In terms of maybe being able to take some elites. White Noise, I really struggle to evaluate this card. In 2,700 hours of play, it's so difficult for me to put a value on White Noise. I guess like maybe if you're doing Echo Form and Spoon shenanigans, but at that point, aren't you just really strong anyway, rather? Self-Repair is cool. It's unique in that it's one of the few sources of healing in the game that's pretty hard to come across. I'm just not convinced that we're going to be taking elites in 3 floors to begin with. I mean, it doesn't matter how many self-repairs we take to be able to, like, pad this out. We're going to roll up with our inserter on floor 6 with no upgrades and be like, I can play Zap twice because I have a hologram. So get in line. Distilled Chaos, like, we're just not going to be there, even if we see some incredible cards. What we would have to do is we would have to go Merchant to be able to buy an uncommon or a couple commons. And then here, we're, like, picking up 5 cards. And then just saying YOLO with an emphasis on that one life and how finite it is. Baylor says, something I've come to note about White Noise, what's up, Baylor, is that there are no zero-cost defect powers, whereas Infernal Blade / Distraction can roll cards that are natively free or unplayable. Smart. You know, Self-Repair has one other bonus, which is that it's actually a pretty dank upgrade, and if we are planning to go to the side here, what else are we upgrading, right? It's not clear that we want to upgrade Hologram right now. We could do some energy upgrades, which with Inserter is not bad, right? We want to be sure that we can play all of our orb-related stuff. Do you think Elites is the path to be able to continue in Act 2, though? I mean, if it's going to kill us 90% of the time, it can't be, right? In general, I agree with you, Advice Colin. To be clear, Advice Colin says, I do think Elites is the path to be able to continue in Act 2. In general, yes, right? This is a very high-value path. And the way to be able to take this many fights, certainly Self-Repair. You know, the more I look, the more I agree. I like the Compiled Driver a lot, but potentially being able to get 7, 14, 21, 28, 35... Freak, it's so bad. 42, 49 health throughout that gauntlet. That's a big deal. Big deal. Is it enough? I think that we can pretty safely consider ourselves to not have a boss relic right now. Inserter is eventually going to be very good, but it is just not relevant to the first half of Act 1. And we can't probably afford to take a bunch of common cruft if we want to eventually win with Inserter, because Inserter asks us to be able to consistently play orb cards and take advantage of them. And so if we fill our deck up with a bunch of streamlines and stuff, we're kind of making up the difference in terms of treasures, relics. But man, I mean, we're what is the phrase? Spiting the nose to save the face or something like that? There's a phrase for that. Like the hat? Thanks, Twaddle. Oh, nice, Baylor. That sounds super fun. Cut off your nose to spite your face? Cutting your nose to spite your face. Right. Exactly. Yeah. Thank you. Cutting off the face to spite the world. Cutting off the face to get the hose again. That's the phrase. The other thing that I like about this self-repair is even if we don't take the triple elites path, in hallway fights, it's pretty consistently playable as Defect. We pick up like one Frost Orb and we're going to be able to play it, and I do think it's health positive. And if it's health positive, we're a lot better at Guardian. Really a lot better. And then does it get to become our meat on the bone in future acts? If we're going to the left, we're certainly going to get it upgraded, and all of a sudden we can afford to take quite a lot of fights. Maybe we even skip this fire and go like this, taking more fights to see more cards. This is so tough. I'm really not sure how to resolve this. I really think that the short and long run best pick is Compile Driver, except that it may be that self-repair makes a substantial difference in our ability to take fights. But it is best to think of self-repair I'm not sure what the right analogy for this is, right? It's not quite a curse in boss fights up to and including the heart and the sentry or the true whatever, the spire elites. But it kind of is. Especially without any storm or anything in elite fights, it's kind of actively a detriment in terms of our draw, right? But if we're just going to take a bunch of hallway fights, part of me thinks that this is Compile Driver, and then we go here, here, and here, because I think that that's most likely to open us up to actually being able to take this ludicrous path. I know that sounds crazy, but I actually think that Compile Driver makes this path more open than the self-repair does. If we take self-repair, we're really wanting to take it to upgrade it, and at that point I would rather take and upgrade Compile Driver and go left, right? I think this is Compile Driver, and I can't really explain why. I can't really fully explain why I think that this is Compile Driver over self-repair, because there's no doubt self-repair is a rare and strong source of healing, but I just don't think it's it. I don't think it's it right here. Not with Inserter. It's like it's a totality of considerations. It does nothing for deck efficiency, yeah. Yeah, so a lot of times I get questions like this. Renzo says, with Compile being common, aren't the chances of it showing back up higher if you wanted to pick it up later? I think that it's a reasonable first pass consideration, right? Like, I'm not going to say that it's completely irrelevant to think about the rarity of cards. But I do think it's mostly a distraction when you're deciding between cards most of the time, right? So when I'm looking at two cards, I'm not necessarily asking, well, which should I take because this other one is more likely to show up? It's really just what should I take? Because you're making a decision in that moment, right? You're not actually building a deck like constructed Magic. You're solving problems. And so rarity of future card picks is not usually that relevant compared to immediate and medium-term needs, right? If that makes sense. So yeah, is it more likely that Compile Driver shows up later? Yes, but also probably I would just take 5 of them. I would be happy to have 2 Compile Drivers, and so it's not really a one-for-one comparison. Okay. Okay. Ah! Okay, new plan. We rob the store. Yeah, the good news is there's a Cold Snap and a Cool-Headed here. And that's really good news. And actually, I really like stacking some Frost Orbs with Inserter. If we take just Cold Snap or just Cool-Headed, we can card remove. And I actually wonder, even though it's on sale, if it's correct here to go Cold Snap, card remove, defend. Sounds wild. Is wild. But I think it makes our deck somewhat substantially better. And we can't do that if we also buy the Cool-Headed. Cool-Headed is good, but it's not that great yet. We're spending one of our precious 3 energy in order to make 2 block repeating, which is better than a defend, but how long is the fight gonna go? We need to be able to play strikes. That being said, I wonder if we can afford to cut a strike here. Realistically, we're picking up damage cards here, right? Right now we have 5, 6, 7 damage cards across our whole deck. 7 of 13, 1 cost each. There's a hologram in there too. Yeah, with all this card draw, presumably we can do better than strike immediately and in the long term. Cold Snap / removal helps against Laga and Nob the most, right? And that's part of the reason for considering a defend removal as well. Plus, Defect has really good defense. Like, we could certainly pick up in the future an auto shields, or what other great block cards does Defect have? I feel like Charge Battery right now is looking pretty good. Act 1 Charge Battery with Compile Driver and Hollow. That ain't bad. Reinforced Body that's here in the shop is incredible. Yeah, but we can't buy it here. But yeah, in the future. Yeah, then there's Glace here, but that goes without saying. Leap is 9. Yeah, Leap ain't even bad. I like the defend removal here if we're really trying to stay open to this path. We are at 54 life. We have Distilled Chaos. Okay, Cold Snap. Remove defend. Boldly go. Boldly go. Call me crazy, but they are after us, one by one. Surely this is Zap Compile Driver. Compile Driver, even with weakness, is enough to kill the Louse. And then if we draw into Dual Cast, we win. If we draw into Hologram, we block for 3. And if we draw into Cold Snap, we block for 2. Could have been worse. Maybe I was supposed to set up Inserter? I'm free! Dobby has been given the gift of focus! Dobby is free! Twitch chat! Ooh! Okay, maybe we can fight elites. Suddenly. Now, we need more orbs. Could have been worse. Wasn't Cold Snap the worst of the 3? My draw could have been worse in totality. But yes, it was the worst of the 3. Okay. Now what? Take 20. Yeah. Yeah. Are we going to play Bias Cognition on turn 1 anyway? And just have, I guess that means we have 3 focus next turn. I mean, yeah, I recognize these wildlife, exactly. We certainly cannot play Distilled Chaos if we want any chance of going to the right. We simply can't. 40, down to 30, 40, 50, 60% chance of getting a potion here? Fractal. Yeah, I mean, it makes us much stronger, right? If we go Biased Cog, Defend, and then Distilled, that's a really strong turn. That way, if we hit Hologram, we can pull back the Defend or something. Gosh, this is brutal. I mean, what? We take 15 damage here. Even if we take no more damage for the rest, we're on 35, and then we're about to... Too bold, Tiki. Too bold. You can't just take 0 damage because you have 1 Bias Cog. Taking a break by working? Breakation is on for my wife. I'm still on duty. All right, we're gonna give it one chance. This run is fine. Last run was too bold. True. We can do whatever we want because the game couldn't be so cruel as to punish us for it. That's a good point. Now that I think about it that way, changes everything. Having said that, are we about to get oh so very punished for not attacking the acid slime first? Say it ain't so. Yes? And as I age, I grow to deeply regret my unwillingness to play into the chaos. Be it as it was, part of me all along. Nope, 22? I'm not interested in that. Yep, nope. 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 Let me work on that. Okay. 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 Okay, now filter, right? Chroma key. Yeah. Good. Okay. And custom color, right? Okay. Okay, like that, right? And okay. Five? How's 5? I can live with 5. Five damage I'm into. That's better. Needs to bob up and down, too much work. Oh, Twitch chat. Am I going to be forced to use the potion now? Maybe. 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 Based on being at 29 health, I suspect I was supposed to use it on round 1, right? Realistically, it would have just saved us 25 life. Yeah, it's too brutal. It's too... We literally must. We literally must. God, that hurts. Okay. Not great. Yeah, so you use that potion on turn 1. Realistically, we leave with 45 health, and then we have a Blessing of the Forge, and we can at least think about going to the right, but 23 health with a self-repair? It's back? It does. This is the third self-repair we've been offered. I mean, is that meaningful? No. Still on 50% potion chance, so the odds of getting another potion before this fight is pretty good. Gosh, I do desperately wish I had figured out that I needed to play that Chaos on turn 1, but I just didn't expect it. Say, Lovey. Yeah, this run is on... It's on roller skates and foam. Like, if we get out of the foam... No shame in going left. My concern is that going left delays the inevitable. My concern is that going left just means that we die later, right? I'm not sure it offers enough value. I mean, there's a lot of question marks, which is positive. Gosh. Take self-repair, biased forge, or rather blessing of the forge. Everything is biased. Blessing of the forge in the next fight against what? Who's it gonna be? Man, even against Gremlin, we're kind of in trouble. Okay. Here's a proposal. I think that this is self-repair, and then we actually go this way. Because it's not likely we can get a lot of value out of this merchant. This is rough. But I think it's recoverable. I think even unupgraded bias cognition is enough to pave the way for us a little bit. Question marks are only fights in modern Spire. I could really use a decent block card. More Frost is probably best. I feel like a zap upgrade would actually be pretty dank. Okay, we are health positive? Barely? Assuming this turns out okay. $612 and a cold snap and a zap manages to do 4-7 damage this turn, and we full block, and then we've got lethal next turn. Cool. Yeah. Storm no cap? Okay, remember when y'all said that mummified run is for the next run? Can you... You got any digital magic? Here we go again, I guess. I don't know where it is that we're going. If we're taking a storm, maybe we upgrade it? Oh my god. They're eating her. Okay. Okay. Everything has gone kind of wacky. Topsy-turvy, upside-downy. $18 health. I'm going to upgrade. We have Bag of Marbles. We have an 8 Storm. And we're about to have an upgraded Bias Cognition? Question mark? It's possible that it really, really needs to be upgraded Chill for specifically Tri-Sentries. Right? Because we rock that Chill and then we're fine for the whole fight. Against Lagavulin, we're probably going to Blessing of the Forge the Bias Cognition anyway. Gremlin, the same. Can we beat Gremlin on turn 3? Do we need to? If we chill, we've also got a little bit of block there, and that's actually going to go quite a long way. Marcy, thanks for that tier 1 and 16 months of support. 4 squared. Appreciate you. Thank you. Yeah, I think we need to upgrade Chill here. Feels a little weird with Bag of Marbles to upgrade Chill, given that... You know, but this is the upgrade that allows us to take an upgrade here rather than resting, I think. Given the potential fights. Gremlin has arrived. And he Angie. Storm, Chill, Strike, and we're holding Blessing of the Forge to hit Biased Cog and or... At least we get our Chill on turn 1, that's positive. You know, if we Blessing of the Forge on turn 1 with the Bag of Marbles, that's quite a bit of extra damage. Strikes right now are doing 9, they'll go up to 9 base, plus the 4, 13. It's plus 8 damage between the 2 strikes. No way, we're totally holding. Because it also potentially lets us multiplay Zap, except that then it's going to be playing skills. Unclear that that's acceptable. Oh my god, do we have to map it out? I think we might. Okay, we have Self-Repair and Bias Cog. Off of Storm. To make 2 Lightning. Count them. At the earliest on turn 2. Should we get them both on turn 2? An optimal outcome. And assuming that we Blessing the Bias Cognition, they're doing base damage of 8. What is our true best case? Maybe it's like Bias Cog, Self-Repair, Zap, Hologram, play the Blessing of the Forge, proceed to play 3 skills, Knob increases attack by 9 from a base of 8, 17, very survivable. And we will have produced 4 Lightning, all of which is doing a base of 8 damage, and an evocation of 13. And we will have evoked some. 1. And the Frost, which blocks for us. 8, 16, 24 plus the 1 that's evoked. 13, 37. And that's our best case outcome. And then the next turn we draw all defends. We're going to have to block through Knob. It's going to be turn 4. But it might be possible still. Remember, we have Inserter as well. We're actually going to have 4 orb slots next turn. So we're actually only evoking the Frost. Assuming that we get that 1 draw. I just can't convince myself that the 8 extra damage from strikes is the thing that allows us to survive this fight, because I don't think it's enough to make us win on turn 3. Not with the Metallicize, and not with this much defense in the draw. Gremlin Knob, certainly our worst case of the 3. Certainly. Certainly. Okay. Wish me Luke. I do think that this fight is survivable, though. I'm certainly not about to write it off. I think there's a very, very real draw by which we survive. Yeah, and this might be like self-repair, cold snap, hollow. No, we can't play double cold snap, right? So if we're going to compile driver, we need to do it now because we need to know if we're going to draw biased cog. And it's imperative that we draw biased cog by next turn. If we draw zap or dual cast, we could upgrade it. Let's see, Blessing of the Forge on this hand, is it useful? Man. I mean, Devil Cold Snap is already a lot of mitigation. Maybe we're not playing Compile Driver. I wonder if this is like Cold Snap Self-Repair End. Block for 4, take 4, down to 14. Next turn, base damage 24, but we're also playing Bias Cognition. Guaranteed. Plus 8 block. Blocking for 12, 24, 12. We're actually living. And that gets us to the prodigal turn 4. At which point we win, presumably. It's hard for me to imagine that I'm not playing Compile Driver, but then it's also hard for me to imagine that I can afford to Blessing of the Forge it, because if we do hit the Bias Cog, we gonna need the stats. And then it's probably Bias Cog Cold Snap and hold Self-Repair for second round. Because we do need the Cold Snap as well. Otherwise, next turn, we are in dire straits. Does that extra 1 focus matter greatly? Let's say we upgrade now and we do draw Bias Cog, and then we play it. We're at 4 focus. And so this turn we block for 12, but then next turn we only block for 10. This turn we full block. Next turn we take 14. So again, we're surviving, but we also have created less lightning, and thus we haven't progressed the fight. So we're basically only saving... Yeah. No. We compile driver first. Okay. Okay, so if it's Self-Repair Cold Snap, and then next turn Bias Cog with the Blessing of the Forge, we're not getting any value out of it, right? It's upgrading a Zap and a Dual Cast that we then can't afford to play. See, no Inserter next turn, so if we Cold Snap or Self-Repair, we're going to have 2 Frost with the Bias Cognition. They'll both be at +5 focus. +5 focus puts them at base of 7, evocation of 10. Evoke 1 for 10, the other one does 7, 17. And we would evoke 1 if we played like this. We could even dual cast 1 if we wanted to play real fast and loose, which might be the kind of thing we need to do. That would be 2 skills played next turn. And then we could have a lightning in the front, and the capacity... Yeah, okay. We're on to something here. We're on to something. Lightning in the front, Cold Snap. Next turn, Bias Cog, Dual Cast Zap, most likely. 2 skills played, +6 attack. Base of 16, up to 22, 33 with the vulnerable. But dual casting a Frost Orb at +5 focus is 20 block. 20 block, 27 from the 33. We're looking actually okay. And then we're set up to probably win on the next turn through evocation of the Lightning Orbs. Yikes. And so the argument is that it's better to Blessing of the Forge this because we get more Bias Cognition and we can play Zaps and Dual Casts in addition to a bunch of attack cards on the redraw. Man, this is such a Hail Mary. And this is not the place to be. The one elite fight in all of Act 1. Like, what a place for your Hail Mary. That ain't it. So scary. Are we even going to play the Defend then? Stick to the gun. 27. Gotta play the Zap. Okay, and now if we play Defend, 22, 25... 12 more, 37. So it's +4 damage, but we're 8 blocks, so we're actually 4 positive. I mean, we are totally hosed next turn anyway, right? Like, the assumption is that we either win next turn or we perish. Mo Dipley! Is it? Did it? It's possible. Don't give up the fate. Don't give up the hope. Modiply, thanks so much for the raid, boss. Welcome, welcome. Oh! We made it. Easiest fight of my life? Having said that, I am going to go walk away briefly, just for a little bit, to recuperate. I return with a few things that will help us in our journey. One, mentioned licorice. No sponsor. Pretty good. 2, sacred bean juice. Act 1 genetic. Ah, but is Act 1 genetic also Act 1 death to Guardian? A fair consideration when you're making a choice outside of a vacuum. Anyway, times are good. While I was gone, Toasted Zergling, thanks so much for the tier 1 sub and 9 months of support. Appreciate you. Thanks for the patience, y'all. Sorry, I needed to get some juice. So I'll be honest, I think that there's a pretty good chance we have to take this Melter. Obviously, I'd love to take a genetic algorithm. In particular because with a Storm and a Bias Cognition in the deck already, there's a pretty fair chance that this run wants to do damage with orbs. And as a general rule, it's very difficult to do damage with orbs and block with orbs. Now, it's a little wacky because one of the things that Inserter is particularly good for is scaling a block. It can trivialize a lot of fights, right? You just build up a million Frost Orbs. This, as an example, can be one of the best relics for completely deactivating 2 of the 3 Act 3 boss fights. Time Eater and Awaken One can be absolutely turned off by this combo because you've got a non-power mechanism that you're scaling your value, and then you add in like 1 consume or a little bit of focus and you're fine. You're Gucci. Just spilled a bunch of coffee because I'm all jacked up on Mountain Dew. No, it's because I keep very tight quarters with my deck setup. It's okay, making my mousepad smell like coffee will keep my brain strong. Those things are directly related. And the mousepad was thirsty too. I mean, realistically, it has to have some. How else will it put up with all the mousery? Surely it needs a sip. When do we ever take Melter? Maybe here. So you know what Melter is not bad at? Guardian. Because one of the biggest problems with trying to crack Guardian in the beginning of the fight is Guardian blocks on turn 2. You need to do 49 damage, not just 40, and then in the next act we've got Shelled Parasite, aka Angry Avocado, Angry Baseball / Mochi, aka Spheric Guardian. There's like a bunch of fights in Act 2 that surprisingly have a little bit of block. Melter can be way more damage than you expect it to be. And right now, we're still in a phase to where we're kind of needing to use our Frost to stay alive. And that's not so bad. We've got a Chill and a Cold Snap, right? Inserter for the Guardian fight. Even if we just build up to 4 Frost, say, I mean, we're passively blocking for 8 now. If we play that Bias Cognition, it's looking a lot better than that. And I think it's pretty likely that we're going to want to play that Bias Cognition. Ultimately, that's going to be the way we survive the fights, right? What Genetic Algorithm says in the Guardian fight is block 1. But, again, really would be nice to pick up given the whole Inserter Storm situation. Inserter Storm. I think there's an argument to be made that maybe it's correct to take Genetic Algorithm even if it costs us a rest. Maybe it's just so much consistency and block over the next act that you can afford to take it. But does Melter allow us another upgrade? Because if so, we can upgrade Bias Cognition, and that's a lot of value. Inserter Storm, the next single from Trops and Trops, could be. Yeah, y'all, I'm not convinced that I'm allowed to take this genetic algorithm. Regarding bias cognition, you don't want to play it too early in the fight. We can probably play it by as early as second cycle, because we're going to be building up so many Yorbs, right? No. Genetic is not bad, and nor have I ever suggested that it's bad. Genetic is incredible. I really want to be able to take Genetic here. The pick of these two picks, which is going to be most effective in Act 3 and Against the Heart, is this one. This is not a question of, like, the long-term value, right? This is not a question of which of these cards would I rather have in my deck on floor 50. Gosh, and there's such an unknown here with this question mark. Well, we have a skill potion too. That's that's non-negligible rather. There's a decent chance that that's an extra block card, and having one more block card in the deck is quite good cycle. Big Monkey, Clawpog got deleted because it's noise. Exclam signal is the rule for that one. But yes, there's a moderation channel in the Discord if you'd like to learn more about how I moderate. I want everybody to be able to have fun, but there's certain kind of patterns that communities can get into around games like this that make the chat room completely unapproachable, really horrible to moderate and to read and to work with, and so I have to limit that kind of stuff. Otherwise, I just can't keep up. I'm still the primary moderator for the channel, right? So I have to be able to read chat, and there's a certain point that a joke gets so old that I feel pretty good about just deleting it. Yeah, man, I think we have to take a Melter. Okay, so let's say we take Genetic Algorithm. We take Genetic Algorithm, and then we have to rest. Odds are we then have to take the big hit. We do probably manage to block, like, 12. Take 24. Be alive at around 20. Yeah, I just can't convince myself that we can consistently live through this fight without the Melter, and I really do think it allows us to take one more upgrade, which is quite a big deal. But our general block right now is quite rough. Honestly, I wish this were a leap. A leap or a charge battery. Yeah, it is what it is. And it's quite nice with the bag of marbles too, right? In terms of opening the fight. Hey, that's huge. Okay. Okay. That lets us take one more strikeout, I think. Wow, we got a shrine. That's so rare. Not only was this question mark not a fight, it was also a shrine, which only happens in 25% of actual events. So that's quite rare. That's quite rare. Okay, if we upgrade, and it is bias cognition, then probably we're using a skill pod in this fight. But, I mean, we're not leaving the act in an atrocious place. We've managed to remove quite a few cards. Wow, yeah. How have we removed so many cards? 2 strikes and a defend out. We've also gotten 4 upgrades. It's not bad. We're about to get a 5th. No, we just got the 5th. The relic situation, though. Yeah, it's deeply scary. Eh? Is there any consideration to try to get the Frost in front? Yeah, maybe. Right, next turn we skill pot, and if it happens to be a Glacier, Inserter procs. Chill self-repair puts us on 2 orbs. Glacier's another 2, and then we're 1 zap away from evoking a Frost, which is exactly what we might want to be doing. We're realistically not going to get a split next turn. Split. I guess one consideration is to self-repair first so that we can actually dual cast here and get value out of it, right? 16 very real damage. And then if we Melter, let's think about this, right? 16 damage from 40 down to 24. Melter, if we draw it, removes all the block and does another 10. Now we're at 14. And it's not impossible to imagine doing 14 damage. Especially with the skill pot. It's A-line. Okay. There's the Melter. Biased Cog actually just does the damage. I wonder if this is actually going to be a very, very early Biased Cog, and we're rushing the pressure. That's a distinct possibility. Melter Biased Compile is a big boy. Because Biased gives us another Lightning Orb, right? Swinging in at 8, 7, 15. That's phase shift. But then we're distinctly on the clock. What does Skill Potion teach us? Skill Potion could be like a Darkness, and Darkness could actually be the thing that really allows us to play Biased Cog right now. Recycle? Actually, I think Recycle might make us win. Is it fast enough? This is so weird. So this would be like Recycle a Strike right here in order to be an energy positive, Bias Cognition in order to make a Lightning, and then Melter Compile Driver. But then we don't have anything to hologram, so it just needs to be something that we drew into. The value of the Recycle is that if we can play it twice here, which I guess, yeah, we hologram first after the compile. If we can play it twice, then we can more rapidly hit our Cold Snap and our Zap. But I guess, you know, Double Energy does something very similar, right? What is my draw? Defend, defend, strike, zap, Cold Snap, Ascender's Bane. That's pretty close to actually being kind of dank. Okay, so what is it exactly? Take Recycle, Recycle a Strike. Now we're on 4. Melter, Bias Cog, Compile Driver. What if This is recycle hologram and skip bias cog first cycle. In that case, we would just play double energy, right? Play double energy. Because then we can just hologram the melter, and that's guaranteed to be the split. Okay, I like that. I think that that's our answer. It really does make this a little bit easier if we can wait just one cycle to play bias cognition, and that just has to be the play. I don't love it. I'm all about playing the bias cog really nice and early and just rushing it down, but this is very safe. And then we can avoid playing this for one cycle. Oh! Would you look at that? It's a zap! Now we can play a compile driver, and if it hits cold snap, that's really cool because I can still afford to play it. Now we got 2 frost orbs, which substantially mitigates the next couple turns. Cool. And now, honestly, we can probably just play bias cog the next time we see it. Like, yeah, this bias cog is already pretty obscene. Yeah, right. We only need to do 200 more damage. This might be like bias cog, cold snap, and that evokes this to give us some block, and then we play the compile driver. That's kind of wacky. I still like the bias cog cold snap though. And now we're blocking 7, 14, 20 out of 16. I can afford to play one more attack. We do that. Next turn, we draw the dual cast for a lightning, potentially, if we need it. Although I'd rather not. Is it better to compile driver here to recycle the deck? Yeah, probably. That gets us back to our orb generation faster. 200 damage, not so big when you are big. 7, 14, 21. 31, 43, or we can dual cast this for 24 by itself. 24, 38, 48, phase shift. Not bad. Damage is power, knowledge is power, knowledge is damage, damage is knowledge. Looks good. Do it. Next turn, zap, strike, melter. Okay. We're getting another orb slot. I'm getting another orb slot. So glad we upgraded bias cog, man. Feels like dual cast is 20 damage on this turn, right? It's like kind of a lot. And then I can still block for 3, 15, 20. And if we don't dual cast on this turn, we don't get to dual cast next turn, and we don't get to evoke. We're just gonna win. We're just gonna do it to him. My draw pile is empty. Yeah, so if I can pile driver, I draw 2 cards right here, and one of them could be dual cast, which is another 18 damage. Do we care? What we probably want is to draw into block, because from here we win fairly confidently. That's block. 3, 6, 9, 12. 17, can I afford to do that? No melter. We do another 12 damage right here, and then we only need to do 34. We have a dual cast next turn. This will be down to 16. 34 minus 16, 18. That feels like well within reach. Except that we're drawing a bunch of block, right? That's the trouble. This might be Melt or Zap. Take 9 damage to be sure that we win. I was going to try to perfect this fight, but this draw is kind of wacky. Next turn's free, though. I mean, we have 2 turns, right? 2 turns? How hard can it be to produce 46 damage between this turn, next turn, and the turn after? We already know we have dual cast next turn for 16 of it. And then we've got Melter on the redraw, almost definitely. I mean, really, it's just between whether or not we do or don't have to play another attack card here, right? We still get to do this. Block for 12, take 8. Basically, this defend could save us 1.25 health next act. Yeah, thinking about that is total madness. I agree. You're right. Fight's well played, thank you. Bias Cog can often be played earlier than people realize. That's one truth about the Spire that I've learned. GG. Okay. Good news and some tougher news. The good news is we survived Act 1. It was a miracle. We boss swapped into Inserter. Certainly not a strong relic in Act 1. We tried to take a path that could maybe set us up to take 3 elites. And then, to be honest, the biggest mistake that we made in that act was not just accepting the truth and playing Distilled Chaos against the Exordium Wildlife. Jawworm plus the Slime was just too much for us, and if we had played that potion on turn 1, it really might have saved us 20 life. And 20 life would have made for a very different looking act. I don't know that it necessarily lets us go to the right, though. The way that we played, we survived. And there is something to be said for waiting until it's sure that you need to play a potion, but I think that it was just sure that we needed to play a potion. I just didn't see it, right? The real tricky bit here is that we have 3 relics total coming out of this act, but we do have some really solid upgraded cards and some decent removals. But I feel really behind, and so here's hoping that the card and potion and relic that we get are very good, because we're going to need it. We're going to need it. We're going to need some oomph to survive this next act. Fear potion? Bunch of money? I mean, so here's the thing, right? You just take more bias cognition. Because as much as Core Surge says that this bias cognition could be permanent, the thing that's going to make us blitz this next act is just stacking so much focus that the fights end. But yeah, these are solid picks. I mean, this is a good set of rares. It's totally possible to brick in your rare pick as Defect, but we did not brick here. Yeah, I feel good about Cog too. It's very important that we get to bias cognition very early in hallway fights. If we draw it on the 3rd turn, it might cost us 30 life. And so getting another bias cognition in the deck, it's kind of like putting 2 corruptions in an ironclad deck. It's partly about making sure you get it set up, right? 2nd cognition, it's a great upgrade target, which we need. It plays into our storm to push fights down, which is something we struggle with. And if we do find sources of artifact in the future, we are Gucci. Notably, our first shop had orange pellets in it. So we're never going to see orange pellets, and that is a little rough. That's certainly an end game that we can imagine being incredibly strong with bias cog, but yeah, let's just take another one. So, 2 bias cognitions. Is it strong enough to take a black star? Good question. Man, Coffee Dripper Astrolabe, this is strong relics too, baby. Let's go. I think the black star is asking a lot, right? We have an Inserter, a Bag of Marbles, and a Blood Vial. We would roll into Act 2 with 3 energy and a dream. It's a big dream. I like Black Star a lot. And if we think that 2 bias cognition is just so strong, then this might actually be the best pick, because we'll recover very quickly. But I also really like Astrolabe here. One of the downsides of this inserter, like I said, is that it's very, very important that we find cards to be able to manipulate and take advantage of the extra orb slots. And we still need more. Also, while we haven't taken any of the sources yet, Defect is arguably the class best equipped to generate their own energy, and so I feel less need to take Coffee Dripper now than I usually do. Honestly, I think that there's a pretty fair chance that this Astrolabe is worth as much, if not more, than the Black Star. If for no other reason than that with what the deck we have now, we don't need these strikes anymore. And so we can go ahead and melt down the last 2 strikes and a defend, and the odds that that improves our deck is like pretty high. We still have energy upgrades left in the deck too. Yeah, as Noduck says, Astro would really pop off the upgrade density something fierce. And we have quite a small deck. Coffee Sweet with self-repair it is. Yeah, the coffee's quite... These are all very, very strong picks. Like, we could take any of these 3 things and it would be correct. It's just a matter of which is going to set us up the best to be able to springboard out of Act 2. That's the big thing, right? Because our Act 1 was pretty weak. So we need to be able to springboard out of Act 2. Gosh, I like this Astrolabe a lot. I think one downside of not taking true energy is that it's very hard for us to take and play Consume right now, which is something that we want to be able to do for boss fights. Yeah. So I want to make sure that we don't have too much spamming chat of like, but Black Star equals more relics. Here's your consideration with Black Star. The minimization function is, how many less elites do I need to take having taking Black Star? Because a lot of times once you take Black Star, you actually have to take a slightly more conservative path for an act or 2 while you rig up the rest of your relics and strength and energy and deck to be able to start to get more relics, right? And so if Coffee Dripper, as an example, or Astrolabe let us take 3 elites in Act 2, and Black Star lets us take 1, we're actually a relic behind coming out of this act. And that might just not be an acceptable cost, especially considering these things are going to make us very substantially stronger in the hallway and against bosses. And so it's kind of an incomplete analysis to be like, but Black Star, we need more relics, right? Because these are relics. These are very good relics, like immediately good relics. In some senses, I think the less relics you have, the harder it is to take Black Star, because you might just need the immediate value, right? And I certainly think that that's a position that we're in. And so, to be honest, this is probably my last pick here. I do think the double Bias Cog makes it at least a consideration. Double Bias Cog is really, really strong. We're probably only a card or 2 away from being able to take elites, even on 3 energy. And then in that case, you know, Black Star can become quite the strong investment for us. And we do have Self-Repair. Self-Repair lets us take more fights, take more dangerous lines, especially since right now it's actually producing a Lightning Orb for us. This pick is so hard, yo. It's so hard, yo. It's so hard. They're all so good. I guess if we're going to take a lot of question marks, then there's an argument to be made that Astrolabe is not as good because question mark, question mark, question mark, elegant simplicity exists. I really want to clean this deck up. I mean, I think that the saving grace for having less energy is going to be a tighter, more upgrade-dense deck. Meme Star? Is this a real relic? Blood Vial does not get disabled by Coffee Dripper. This just disables rest. You can still heal with Coffee Dripper. You just cannot rest. And that's not so bad because we're going to be healing here and here. The Blood Vial is kind of unfortunate having removed so many strikes because bites actually might not have been that bad. And there's some aberrant consideration that we could just transform 3 defends and then immediately find the vampires event and like have 5 upgraded bites, question mark, 3 energy. That seems whack. Let's not do that. I really think this coffee dripper is the sanest line. It lets us take the most value. But it does disable healing after question marks. Question marks act 2 are strong. Okay, I'm gonna take Astrolabe. I've thought about it at great length. What? Okay, we have 2 upgraded self-repairs and a Tempest? Eh?